I know I am far from done, um, but again, I'm just getting over a heart attack of my own. I actually feel pretty good. I'm just kind of worn down and a bit tired. I think some of it may be new meds I'm on. In one respect, taking new medicine really isn't that much for me because I just added four meds on top of all the stuff I jumped on. Oh, thank you, Daniel. I appreciate it, and everybody else too. Um, but in terms of like a guy who just got over a heart attack, I it feels weird to feel this well in the sense of just I'm not in pain. Um, this morning I kind of woke up with a little bit of like a twinge underneath my left arm, but it was positional, so it just kind of depended on where I put it. And I kind of figured out that I was having to use my left arm to lift things because my right arm, they did the cath through there, so I'm not supposed to lift anything over 3 pounds. So I've been lifting everything I need to pick up with my right arm, and so I think I actually strained a muscle a little bit from that. So it's that kind of stuff I'm dealing with, but nothing nothing compared, to what I went through leading up to the stress test and leading up to, whenever I actually had the heart attack, and then all the stuff they did before. It's kind of weird to be in that kind of pain and then come out of it, and everything's sort of surreal. This idea that like the type of um, the type of blockage I had is the kind that kills everybody, and so and part of it is it just doesn't get seen. All the scans they were doing until they did that last scan that showed that blood flow was cut off. And even then, it was an outpatient procedure, so they were processing it slowly until they found the stuff in my blood work at the ER after 12 hours that showed that I'd had a heart attack. And then they rushed through, saw there was a blood flow issue, and then they went in with the catheterization and found that blockage in the left anterior descending artery, what they call the widowmaker. Um, and so all of that stuff happened really fast. So it's like come in for an outpatient patient procedure, pass out, end up in the ER, um, have a heart attack. Thursday have a catheterization, and Friday I went home. And so like everything since then, I've faced death before. I've been in kidney failure, I've had brain issues and all sorts of stuff, but everything I've had a problem with has kind of been slow motion. And this time it was fast, like it was very fast. So my this is the fastest brush with death I've ever had, and I'm kind of sitting. I'm kind of sitting in everything that I'm doing is like I feel like there's like a half dozen worlds where one or two things was different. There were one or two extra people in the ER. They didn't. I didn't say something in time when I said I was having trouble breathing after 12 hours, and they didn't take me back. They didn't find the tropoline in my blood that indicated I'd had a heart attack. So like, there's dozens of worlds out there where one thing was different and I didn't make it. So there's worlds where I didn't make it past Wednesday, and so everything that I do, all these like simple things, like preparing to write an article, coming on stream to work for a little while, all of these things feel like like the idea of it's almost like I stepped through some kind of veil, and I'm operating on borrowed time. And so I find myself in a situation where like a lot of stuff just doesn't feel real. And I've been through things before. Like I went through kidney failure before a transplant, and there was this moment on the other side where like your brain tries to reprioritize everything. And so most of the things we do in life are these little things that we have to do, and it's not like we could just brush all that stuff off and say, well, today, I'm never doing laundry again, or I'm never taking out the trash again. All this stuff that obviously, even though it's trivial, you're still got to do it. These are the functions of life. Getting my kid, something that he needs for a snack or something like that. But I find myself in this weird place where it's hard to care about little things, and I've been there before. But there was such a specific time that I almost died that I can almost mark that place in time 6 days ago, where everything afterward is sort of, this is an alternate universe where I survived, and so I'm it's it's to a point where it not only can I do I have trouble caring about things, I don't even care enough to decide if I should care, you know. And so, you know, I'm kind of going through the motions on things. I pushed a lot of work off. So normally I write for hours and hours, and I kind of feel like I could do it, you know, that I could sit down and do it. But I'm trying not to be stupid. So I'm following all their rules, but I also took about 2 weeks worth of work and pushed it into February. And so I'm only doing small things. You know, I'm streaming today, but I knew that I was going to stop whenever I felt like it. And tomorrow I'll do a longer one. Um, but it's very odd to be in a place like this, and I'm sure lots of people who've gone through this feel the same thing. But I do think one difference is most people who have heart attacks are not just kind of up and walking around and just functioning like normal, essentially. So, you know, I'm not complaining, obviously, but the idea that, like, I went through something that was pretty extreme, but then on the other side of it, I'm kind of walking around like everything's normal. And so I had it's kind of a difficult thing to process, going through that. And then, of course, you know, I tell people which kind of artery was blocked and all that, and it's just person after person after person saying, "Yeah, that's what killed my father. That's what killed my wife. That's what killed my uncle." You know, all this stuff that, like, this is, you know, this is the widowmaker. This is the silent killer, and I just kind of brush through it, and I just kind of keep not dying. I got a lot of crap wrong with me, but I just keep cruising along. And then, of course, you got to face the fact that there's going to be a day when the cruising's done. But today's not that day, and probably tomorrow's not either. But I do feel very much like I'm on borrowed time. I feel very much like, I'm on, you know, I'm on a day-to-day lease on life, I suppose. And I've felt that way a lot over the years. It's the kind of thing that, like, I think um, people are meant to feel that in small doses. So, like, you know, you almost get into a car accident, you survive, and you start to look at life differently, but eventually you kind of get back into normal. Someone goes through a kidney transplant like I did, your view on life changes, your view on other people changes, your ideas about kindness and grace and gratitude change, and your priorities on what's important change. But eventually that you start to get back into a new normal. You can't function on this level of hypersensitivity all the time, where, like, you're destroyed by every bad thing going on in the world, because there's tons of bad things going on in the world. And so if you felt all those things the way that you would feel about, like, losing a family member or fearing your own death, if you felt that way about everything, it would destroy you. You can't function like that. You have to be able to kind of get into a normal flow in life. But I keep having these things happen to me, that constantly push me back into, I don't want to say hypervigilance, and nothing like what soldiers go through, you know, where they're constantly looking for trouble. Nothing like that. I'm not claiming, no post-traumatic stress syndrome, nothing like that. But I'm saying sort of this, like, this like feeling, this surreal feeling you get after a near-death experience, I suppose. I have that constantly happening to me, to the point that I kind of just live in that space on some level all the time. Like, I never get to a point where I'm allowed to take life for granted. You know, I never get to a point where I can just assume everything's going to be okay. I'm a pretty positive person, and I'm stoic, I think, in a classical sense, not the, like, stunted emotion sense, but, like, the classic philosophy of stoicism, where you look at life from that perspective of what you can control and all those kind of things. But things like this just constantly mess with my perspective, and I think it's mostly a positive thing. It's mostly that kind of thing where, like, life is short, so do the best you can. Life is short, so treat people better. Life is short, so don't dwell on things. So I never can quite get away from that life is short thing. Now, of course, the positive of that is, the idea of living in the moment, and making the most of things, and appreciating your time in the world. And hopefully you don't need, like, a heart attack or kidney failure or degenerative brain issues or any of that kind of stuff to appreciate your moments. But sometimes that's what it takes. Sometimes there are lessons that we can only learn through suffering. Now, I don't think it has to be near death. I don't think it has to be a heart attack every time. But for me, it's just this constant reminder. I almost feel like I'm not allowed to let go of those things. But I do think it makes me a better person. Like if my life was perfect, if my health was well, I would not be a good guy. I only became that bad guy is always kind of there, and the only thing that's kind of killed him has been all this stuff that's happened to me. The things that force me to be grateful for what I have, the things that have kind of forced me to appreciate the moment, the things that have forced me to take people that I would normally just dismiss, and I can't not see what they're going through. So since transplant, and each of the brushes with death that came next to it, I've reached a state that even when I don't like somebody, even when they're toxic, even when I know I have to push them away in order to keep my family safe, in order to keep me safe, I can't ever really hate them. Like, I don't have the capability in me. All these things have kind of killed my hate. And so when I have a situation like that where I do need to cut somebody off, or somebody has wronged me, I can't help but see the pain in them. So all the things I've been through, I can't help but see other people's depression. I can't help but see other people who are suffering from anxiety. I can't help but see other people who've been through trauma that broke them or scarred them as a person. And even though I know I can't let that person in, I never really stop empathizing with that person, even someone that I might normally consider an enemy. And so I think that's a positive. If I didn't go through these things that I went through, I wouldn't be the guy who could see that. I would be a lesser person. I would be a worse person. I wouldn't treat people as well. And any kind of positive impact you see from me is born out of this stuff. It's born out of the pain and the brushes with mortality. All of that was the necessary cost for me to be the person that I'm meant to be. And again, not perfect, not even the best person I know, nothing like that. But the best version of myself was only possible through a road that took me through all these health issues and all these near-death passes and all that. So I'm not telling you guys how to view things, but every bad thing that kind of forces you to shed some part of yourself that's lingering or left over, or that if all things were good in your life, you might be more selfish, or you might be less compassionate. The price of empathy is pain. Like, the only way that you can empathize with somebody else is for you to suffer and feel pain. And empathy is probably the most important trait that allows you to be good to somebody else. The fact that you can put yourself in that position. And I've kind of been forced into that over the years. So I feel like I'm on borrowed time. I feel like I'm leasing life one day at a time. I don't think I'm in immediate danger. But again, I didn't on Tuesday. Well, I was feeling consistent chest pain, so I felt like I was in danger. But I had no idea that it was really a heart issue. At the point that all the scans up until then had come back showing that everything was fine, I was like, well, this is just something else. We're ruling out the heart stuff, but if it were something bad, they would find it. But of course, that's why this particular thing kills so many people, is because they don't find it. They usually don't find it in time. And had I not passed out in that ER, I would have gone home with a heart attack, and I probably would have died at home. So I'm very grateful for the life I have. I know that a lot of people don't believe in God. I believe in God. I am humble enough, I think, to believe I don't truly understand him. And if God is real, I don't think my interpretation of him is accurate. I don't think anybody's interpretation is. And people die of heart attacks all the time, so it would be sort of self-centered for me to assume that God had some kind of special liking to me that he didn't have to everyone else that this killed. But the line of coincidences that stacked up in this situation to keep me alive are a little bit too much for my brain to wrap around. It's almost, I recognize the fact that coincidences do line up like that, and that there's other people that it didn't line up for and they didn't make it. And that doesn't mean they weren't in God's favor or any of that kind of thing. But when I look from my limited perspective, when I look through, I can't not see it. I can't not see that there was some kind of divine interference that went on there. And so for me, that pulls on a responsibility. I recognize that I'm in this, hyper mental state that would cause me to misinterpret things like that. But even recognizing that bias, I can't let it go. Like I can't not see a divine hand on what went on. And so the faith that kind of sustains me, which I like to think of as a humble faith. This idea that I don't see faith as something that makes me special or makes me righteous. On the contrary, I see myself as broken. When people talk about faith being a crutch, that's how I use it. I use faith to hold myself up because I can't hold up on my own. So it's something that I hold on to, even though I recognize that it's possible I'm wrong, because I'm wrong about a lot of things. And it's possible that God is real and I'm wrong about what he is. And I'm 100% sure that none of us have interpreted, if a God is real, that none of us have interpreted correctly. And the least humble thing we can do is to presume that we know the mind of God. But all that being said, I'm grateful. If there's a divine hand or not, I'm grateful to be alive. I'm grateful to the people who cared about me. I'm grateful for the people who prayed. Grateful for the people who've reached out and helped, and grateful to the doctors who, in the midst of a pandemic and were completely overwhelmed and unable to help everybody, they still got to me in time and did everything they needed to do to have me sitting here now.